So, Konrad, tell us a bit more about inbound marketing.
Right, so that's a good question, Lauren. I had a feeling you were going to ask me that.
I had a feeling I was going to ask that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Inbound marketing, I know. Just synergy, there's so much synergy in the room. Inbound marketing as a term can be pretty much used interchangeably with content marketing. And in a nutshell, what it means is it's a process of pulling your target audience towards your brand, towards your offering, your service, your product by offering them valuable content, valuable and or entertaining content at each stage of their buyer's journey. So essentially you're taking them from a place of unawareness all the way through to conversion down there. And when I say unawareness, it can be unawareness that they can be unaware that you exist as a brand. They can be unaware that there's a solution for the problem they have. They can even be unaware that they have a problem. So kind of what you start with is you start by educating them. Do you like the hand movements here? Because I'm really going for it. You start by educating them, answering their problems, answering their questions even, solving their problems, building trust along the way, and gradually nudging them closer and closer towards conversion. And you kind of end up doing the job of a traditional salesperson before a salesperson even needs to get involved.
What do you think are the sort of the key elements that make a really good inbound or content marketing strategy, in your opinion? Or of everyone's opinion?
I can't answer for everyone, but I can answer for me.
In
everyone's opinion. That's a big question. What I'd say first of all is that it's kind of a delicate balancing act, getting a content marketing or inbound marketing strategy right. There are many, many elements that need to go right. From our experience, most companies have something wrong, some major piece of the puzzle missing. So just to kind of summarize, first of all, you need to understand why, the why questions. Why are you doing it? What do you hope to achieve? Is inbound marketing a feasible way to get there? And you need to have everyone on board, all the stakeholders on board, because we've had times when we've gone and done an amazing content strategy with the marketing team, and there were people missing, for example, the CEO, and then you start doing it and then the CEO will see the content going out and be like, why is that not promoting our product? Why is this? And it will get shut down and you kind of, it gets stopped along the way. So the why questions and the who questions, the biggest who question is who's your audience? You need to understand who your buyers, your typical buyers are, and gather buying insights and do buyer persona research to really understand the journey that your typical buyer takes when considering purchasing a product or service like yours. Once you understand that journey, you can kind of use content to kind of lead them towards you as the solution to their problem. So you need to understand who they are, who you are as a brand, branding, right? Do those personalities match up? The other things that are important are differentiation. This is so overlooked by so many companies, especially in the B2B world. They can get the science side of things right, and they can understand all the elements, but then they just create a blog or a vlog or whatever that's exactly the same as 1,000 other so-called thought leaders in their industry, and nothing stands out, and they don't make a stamp in their industry. So
talk a bit about insights. Where do you usually find or go to source insight? Because insight is a big word, and from experience talking to brands or clients of different types of organisations, when you use the word insight, it usually means big pieces of information that they don't necessarily know how to interrogate or decode, and how that helps inform an idea or a piece of content or a strategy. How does that usually tend to work?
So you want to know my understanding of insights?
Yeah. Where do you find that information from?
Well, what we do, I think what I was referring to is buyer persona, buying insights. We follow this process that I don't know if you've heard of Adele Ravella. She's from the Buyer Persona Institute, and it's this technique of essentially gathering insights from your typical buyers by doing buyer interviews with them. So basically getting a bunch of people that either bought your product or almost bought your product but didn't, product or service. In fact, it's more valuable to get people that didn't buy your product because for some reason they were switched off at some point along their journey. And we use this thing which is, again, according to Adele Ravella's philosophy, which is the 5 rings of buyer insight. Basically, what you're trying to gather from these interviews are the first things are the triggering factors. What happened in that person's life or in that business's life? What changed that caused them to search or begin searching for a solution to whatever problem they have? So that's the triggering factors. Then basically then the results, the outcomes that they're looking for. So, you know, what's the end benefit? What's the end goal for them? Then the perceived barriers, which is number 3. So the perceived barriers are what's happened in their mind that, you know, is preventing them from going ahead with a solution like yours or yours specifically. Number 4 is what are the 3 to 5 factors that they use to compare other companies like yours. And the last one is what's the buyer's journey. So usually you'll have a buyer, you have like someone, maybe it's from the marketing team, who's the person who's interacting with your brand, but there will be other decision makers, there'll be other people that influence their decision. If you understand all of those and you can and get real buying insights, you can then create content which preempts their objections, which you can even create content, you know, as an example, I talked about the buyer's journey, and you know, you might be talking to a CMO of a company. They're your buyer. You're, you know, talking to them all the time, or they're consuming your content, but you know, because of these insights, that they're going to have to run it by the board. They're going to have to, the CEO, the CFO, whoever. So you can then, if you understand that, you can create content which they can forward on. You can even create blog posts and white papers, say how to persuade your CEO to buy this whatever solution. So if you really understand that journey thoroughly, you can create content to just kind of like help them along.
So that's the reason, you know, my mum passed away early on in my life, and just realized the other day I've married my mum, similar woman to my mum, and I watch all these movies with Diane Keaton because she looks a lot like my mum.
I'm trying to understand where this is going.
Is this like a buyer persona type thing, or?
It is now.
If you were buying something, then
Okay.
If we understand the reason why you like those movies, then you know we can create content with more Diane Keaton.
Do you find though that with the digital world getting more and more complex, decision making and understanding the buyer's journey is becoming increasingly difficult to tap into because things are fickle, people are fickle, and obviously you'll probably have something to say about this. But from a data-centric point of view, is data in sort of interrogating data and interrogating the buyer's journey has to work hand in hand, or how do you see that sort of?
I think it does. Yeah, it does need to work hand in hand. I guess like I think most marketers, when they look at buyer personas, they look at data, and data is very important, but they often look at demographic data, right? And it's often, that. I'll give you an example. I don't know if it answers your question, but I'm going to go into it anyway. So we had this marketing agency that, they were kind of a middleman. So their clients were our clients, and they gave us these buyer personas, and it was all based on it was all demographic information, but they went really overboard as well of storytelling. Storytelling.
Take a drink.
Take a drink. This guy would go like so over the top of here's a buyer persona. Meet Jane Smith. Every morning she'd leaf through the Guardian while drinking Earl Grey before going to drop off her kids, and it's like literally 4 pages of this fictitious character, right? Yeah. Because, but it's how, as a copywriter and a content strategist, it doesn't help us at all. In fact, it kind of hinders what we're doing because it's just creating this fictional. Yeah. Well, how would that help? If I get so obsessed with writing for Jane Smith, then I'm ignoring everyone else. So when looking at it in terms of buying insights, instead of what's a day in the life of Jane Smith, you should be looking at what's the day in the life of this person when they're considering buying from you. And when I say a day, it might be a day, it might be an hour, it might be 3 years. And generally the way we split up buyer personas is not based on where they live, or let's put all of them in that country, and then we'll create content for them, or from that size company, because you might find out that your buyers from this smaller size company and larger size company from these 10 different countries all go through the exact same journey, and they all give the same answers. So they should all be one buyer persona, and the copy you create for them should be the same. What's the point in really, when it comes to content and copy, what's the point in changing it just because they're in a different country? If they go through that same process, you know how to manipulate them into kind of...
Do you not think that different marketers have different nuances? Someone from Germany will have a completely different idea of what persuades them to someone in the UK, and vice versa, and so on and so forth.
I beg to differ. I think everyone's got basic pain points. Like if you're selling B2B, you want to make them look good at their job and make their lives easier. So that's all I'm selling them. It's like, you'll look good at your next meeting if you use my client's software or whatever. B2C is slightly more complex, but there's a Robert Kiyosaki thing of God, sex and money, right? This will make you money. This will help you with well-being, spiritualism or whatever, or this will find you the perfect partner or whatever, status, etc. There's basic human
It's cultural nuances, cultural sort of behaviour tactics.
And I know, I do agree with that. I think you need to sort of package it in a certain way, and I think that's fine. If I were marketing my client services in Germany, I'd find a German copywriter, not just a translator. I mean, that's the side discussion. I think people make big mistakes when going into other markets and go, oh, I've got a great translation company. Yeah, but is a translator a 50-year-old German woman who's bilingual, and you're hitting up German kids? Well, that's not going to be right. So you need the copywriter there. But I think actually the whole persona thing, creative masturbation was coming in my head again, Jane reading The Guardian. What I want to know is what keeps Jane awake at 3 a.m, what's her pain point? And in terms of the customer journey, I entirely agree with that, you draw it out, but sometimes I just shove them through my funnel, right? Marketing's about selling the next step. So what's the outcome? They're going to buy. Okay, so they're going to click on this ad on Facebook, they're going to go to this landing page, download this lead magnet, get nurtured on this sequence. And also, I don't want every single person doing it. Well, I do, but it's not going to happen, right? As long as it fits within the conversion funnel, i.e. we know that 1% of people will end up buying. That's okay if it fits within the cost per acquisition. It's all drawn out on a numbers game. So
he loves numbers.
He likes numbers.
He's a numbers guy.
Yeah, well, this is it.
It's what's going to influence them at the end of the day. What's that one thing that's going to hook them to push them down that funnel as you talk about, which leads quite nicely onto that next question of,
Can I just get back to your last, loop back to your point with the nuances. I do agree that there may well and often will be cultural nuances, but what I'm saying is you find the nuances by doing this process, and what you might find, as opposed to what most marketers I think assume, is that actually, oh hang on, I've got this German audience and French and whatever. Actually, really, that journey and those perceived barriers and the factors there and the benefits are all the same. So let's group them together. If you realise that your German audience and French audience, for example, if their answers to those questions are different, then they should be separated. But I think that process, you understand how many buyers you have, and it shouldn't just be demographic data. It should be what's going on in
It's also historic. Here. It's also historic data as well, isn't it? It's not looking just purely at the buyer persona, which I totally agree. I think you have to understand that entire process. I think the other side of the story is very much looking at where's the historic side data come. What are the historic campaigns look like? What has worked? What hasn't worked for them? And then being able to package that in a way that makes sense across the board. Because at the end of the day, it's what influences them, whether it's from a demographic all the way through to site conversion and traffic.
Just a quick one, just to kind of wet my whistle, is
we've done that already, haven't we?
What about what's the most exciting, what's the most weird thing you've ever found in a buyer persona?
Oh, that's a good question.
What's the most exciting and weird thing?
Or exciting or weird. You were profiling this buyer and you found out that their pain was
I might have to
constipation from cheese. Or, I don't know. What was it?
I wish I could pull on a really weird and exciting example, but I haven't got one. I guess often by doing that process, you will just find that assumptions aren't always right. Even the salespeople that are face to face with the buyers and they think they understand, if you just go on assumptions and if you just base it on your internal kind of knowledge, your assumptions, there might be one thing that you're missing, and that could be a key thing that if you address it in your content marketing funnel and copywriting, it could boost conversions by 20%.
It's funny that you should talk about assumptions. It's one of these sort of loopholes that sort of crop up a lot in the big agency world, which is where brand planners, I hate to use the brand term, the brand planners end up making assumptions on audiences and campaign ideas based on themselves. And there's a serious issue.
That's sickening.
It's the worst. It's the worst.
Sickening.
Oh, you get that in search so much. Oh, like, well, I wouldn't click on the. I don't click on those ads. I don't click on those ads.
What are you doing working in marketing if you talk about you as a market sample of one? Oh, I don't like that. Fuck out now. Honestly. I can't believe it.
It happens more regularly than we like to give credit for, where you have planners and strategists who really they kind of waltzing in. I'm really having my little rant right now. This is my rant.
I'm seeing
Boogie's
strategists like us waltzing in.
All you strategists, and I'm one as well, so I can't talk. More often than not, they make major assumptions about audiences based on either themselves or whether it's sort of finger in the air kind of attitudinal behaviour. Whereas, I mean, and this is my own personal opinion, it has to be a combination of both. It has to be a combination of consumer truths versus the numbers game, because otherwise, totally. What are you doing? And what is going to be that influence, which draws me nicely to that next question of talking about...
Fire away.
Segue into... Honestly. What can I say? I'm a regular wrong burgundy. Obviously, inbound marketing has many facets. It's not just a one-stop shop for one type of activity. And influencer marketing is a topic that's unbelievably hot.
Love it. I'm all over it.
You're all over it. Some people are, some people aren't. Can you talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on influencer marketing?
Influencer marketing is great. First of all, that's my first point.
Controversial.
Controversial.
It's great. I think. Let me tell you about my story of influencer marketing and what it's done for my company. Storytelling, stories.
Sample of one, yeah.
Right. I told you guys we were going to do stories, remember? Like years ago, I built the creative copywriter from a blog. That's how it started. I started, that was old school SEO, pre-Penguin and Panda changes and things. Tricksters couldn't really trick the system anymore, and that's when I decided to learn how to kind of do content marketing for us, because we were copywriters, and that's what we offered. I came across a blog post written by Christy Hines, and it was one of those roundup posts that today you see all the time, but back then you didn't. It's like 33 content marketing experts reveal the secret to how to promote your blog post. Something like that, I can't remember the exact title. And then I realised, hang on, this is like super smart. What she's done here is just got all these other experts, combined their knowledge, put it on a blog post, and it's got, excuse my French, a shitload of traffic, and it brought a lot of traffic to that. So that to her site. So that's when I kind of understood the collaborative effect of influencer marketing in B2B. A lot of people see influencer marketing as kind of endorsements. You pay an influencer, and in B2C it is more like that. You've got a vlogger and they'll hold up your product. You need to pay them. But collaborative, the way when I talk about influencer marketing, especially in the B2B world, I often talk about, for example, this sort of thing where you collaborate, and it's a win-win-win situation. So I realised I started schmoozing all these influencers online, on Twitter myself. I realised that there are people like Aaron Lee that had 500,000 followers, who he was talking about the same things that I was talking about. So, and it's all public, it's on Twitter. So I went on Twitter every day and I shared his stuff. I curated his content. I jumped in when I could and made him laugh. When I say him, it's him plus 50 to 100 other influencers. I scratched their backs in basically with the goal of them eventually scratching mine. After 3 months of doing that and writing comments on their blog posts, I then reached out and said, "Hey, it's me, the hat-wearing copywriter from London. Don't have the hat now, so it'd be better if I could have done that. Shame." And I said, I'm creating these epic blog posts where I'm getting the world's best experts on these subjects. So using flattery, the world's top experts. I've got Guy Kawasaki on the list, I've got Aaron Lee on the list, I've got Neil Schaffer on the list. You know, name dropped people who were on the list who had not yet agreed, but I didn't lie. So I was using, you know, the Jones theory, a bit of sort of sales psychology, and then influencers, you know, the other influencers said, oh shit, I need to be on that blog post. These guys are on it. Created 6 blog posts. The first one got 9,000 new visitors to our blog in 1 week, and put us on the map.
Yeah.
And it repeated that system of. In fact, it was easier than creating my own content. All I did was reach out and create this collaborative content. The great thing is it's good for them because it boosts their authority online, right? Why not? Why wouldn't they spend 2 minutes giving a paragraph, you know, a nugget of gold? It's great for our readers because it's better than just me or, you know, one of the other copywriters sharing our knowledge. You've got, you know, 30 of the world's top experts giving these nuggets of gold. But the selfish thing is that obviously you then ask them all to share it. You ask them to share that content. You follow up with an email. Then you can follow up repeatedly with tweets, tag them in, and have a system whereby 33 of the biggest influencers, each with 10,000 up to 500,000 followers, are repeatedly retweeting and sharing your content. Suddenly, you've got a traffic generating blog. So going from being, you know, out of the blue, coming into the industry and thinking, how do I get traffic to a blog without having a budget at the time? How can I really get a readership and build a blog that gets people? Influencer marketing is your fast track to success if you apply some of these techniques.
On the controversial side of that, though, you've got that wonderful influencer marketing stance around, you know, the endorsement factor, and unfortunately, it's given influencer marketing a bit of a bad rep. Yeah. How do you counteract that? Because that's, you know, brands come to you and ask you for an influencer strategy or an outreach strategy, and you have to almost put a figure or put a return of investment on, you know, paying out to these guys who are doing their endorsements for you. But what are they actually giving you other than a bit of exposure?
It's hard, and I guess that's why we don't really offer it as that service. So what we do is we integrate what I call influencer marketing into a content marketing plan, and it's very much usually through these collaborative techniques and also guest blogging as a follow-up. Guest blogging, as I call it, PR agency might call that digital PR, an SEO agency would call that backlink building. It's all the same thing. Yeah. But by building relationships with other influential bloggers and publications, getting them to collaborate with you and then sharing your content on their platforms, that's how you can really build traction. But I agree, and we don't offer just influencer marketing or let's do an outreach campaign, and I think it is really hard to quantify it. Yeah. And I mean,
I work with influencer marketing on the other side, the controversial side. That's why I asked. It's always interesting to hear other people's opinions, but from a performance perspective.
Well, I think that's the thing. In my head, I'm like, I just want to quantify it. It'd be cool actually if you looked at like, okay, here's how many hours I put in with my story, and then here's the returns I got back. So you got all the visitors, but how many inquiries you get. You probably got an ROI there, and it's just being able to do that in the, you know, to replicate that. The problem I see with people doing influencer marketing, it's just the consistency. Like you can get the influencers tweeting about you, and that's great. Get some traffic, get some sales, but you need to do it day in, day out, 365 days a year, and that's why I always lean towards paid, because it's pay per click. It's kind of like that's going to be hammering. I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing influencer, but it's, in an ideal world, you do.
And also, like, authenticity is a thing, right?
Yeah,
so just think with like
subject.
with like this with this influencer, like all of a sudden, you know, they've been spouting about their like 3-year-old kid for a little while, and like you're into their whole vibe, and you get to know their family and all of that stuff. And then all of a sudden, he's like, I'm so into Pampers.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can see the dollar bills in your eyes.
Yeah.
I think that's
like, and you know they're being paid.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. It's like Marcus Hemsley, brought to you by Polo. You know, it's like he was brought to me anyway, and now he's brought to me by Polo, and it's like he's sold out.
Oh shit!
You know?
Like,
that's why I guess my form of it, and I've even been thinking about changing the name because I had this.
It has connotations to it now.
Yeah, I had it with a client. They said, you said influencer marketing. We've got this extra budget for it. What can you do? We want to pay someone. I said, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about basically collaborative techniques and even micro influencers, you know, not big celebrities online. You can use regular people or much smaller influencers are much more likely to collaborate with you with a couple of thousand followers, but get hundreds of them and do things kind of like what we're doing now, but on a larger scale. So I might change the name.
B2B, it's quality, not quantity as well anyway. So you've got, maybe famous on 5,000, CXOs, that's what you're targeting in the city of London. Or CMOs, like, that's it. So it isn't just about, like, because I think, who's that guy? The other one with the hat that runs a big social media agency. You know the guy? He bought up all the sort of like, all the basic social media real estate. He was a student. Steve Bartlett runs.
Oh my goodness!
You know the guy,
I know
right?
the guy.
So it's really, in fairness, hats off to him at university, struggling
hats
student.
off to him.
Hey.
You just
oh my god,
you're unintentional.
You know what?
Pun
This
master.
is unconscious. This is wonderful.
It just happens.
It is just happened. So I think the guy's story, I heard him speak at a conference, but 19-year-old struggling at university decided to literally like buy up social media profiles. So like unilad.com, all of that, he's bought those guys in and then he just gets big brands and then gets them filtered in through all the tweets and everything. But are they your target audience? Where's the return on investment? He couldn't really answer those sort of questions.
It's and then the adverse effect is that people are therefore becoming potentially a bit desensitized with content marketing, which is my next question, ironically enough. Do you believe that this is...
What are you grilling me for? I think I wrote the questions, but
I think
still.
you wrote questions, yes. This is Michael Parkinson, eat your heart out.
Yeah.
So do you think that that's becoming a problem? Do you see that, is there a difference between B2B and B2C inbound marketing, where you see that people are becoming a little bit more desensitized towards the prospect of this type of...
I think people are becoming desensitized. Cut. Let's edit that out to content marketing, definitely. But I think they are to all forms of advertising and marketing as they do, but I think that what I'd say is because most of the time it's done badly. It's bad content. Right. And the thing about inbound marketing, the thing that kind of makes it great in my eyes is when it's done well, you even as a content marketer, I will click through and every now and then read a blog post which has value that I need. Then there'll be a pop-up and there'll be a download, an ebook, and I know why they're doing it, but it has something of more value that I need at that point. So I'll exchange my name and email address. Yeah. They'll follow up with emails. I might not open all of them, but some of them, kind of ring true to what I need at that time, and they're providing more value. And then suddenly there's something that, and so it's value driven. So it shouldn't. People become more immune to pop-up ads that are just in their face and that they can delete. It's offering value, so if you do it right, it should work. And I think a key point is differentiation, and one of the key things that we try to bring to a strategy is how are you going to differentiate. There's all your competitors out there, they're all thought leaders. What can we do? And I think one of it is by trying to mix up the game. And we've got a client now, Aaron Estates, that are a big estate agency chain in the south of England, and we're doing content marketing through the letterbox because there's lots of online blog posts about how to get your first mortgage and all of that, but still people are getting these letters through their door that are old school sales estate agency cringe-worthy letters. So what we're doing is we're sending them valuable, essentially blog posts through the letterbox and these kind of storytelling tales, these drink, but little stories that are kind of cute and so we've mixed it up, we've changed it, we've differentiated by essentially doing content marketing through the letterbox, and then rather than saying call us at the end, the call to action is now download this ebook or try this thing out online. So we're trying to take them from offline to online. So you just need to think, I know it's a cliche, think outside the box, but how can you differentiate? And if you do competitor analysis and see what's out there in the industry, then you can get creative and think, all right, let's do that, which is different. So that's the kind of art side of it. There's the science side, and that's the art side.
It is solving problems ultimately. I think content marketing will always work because if I've got a really painful problem and all of a sudden there's an article that solves that, I've got to read it because, like you said, I'm desensitized to all this crap now. Yeah, but that information in that article, that's more valuable to me, and even leaving my email address for an ebook, that's more valuable for me, like you said. don't actually like, oh, I don't want to deal with advertising right now. You know what they're doing. You're going to be on a marketing list, etc. But
it keeps you relevant as well from a brand point of view. If you don't have content marketing, if you are just reliant completely on a website or an ad or even a social post, it's all content at the end of the day, and it has to keep you relevant with different people.
Well, it goes into the authenticity piece, does it? I say that to clients, like, who's the thought leader in your space? Who's the trusted authority in your? They're like, oh, no one. I was like, well, do you want to own that space? Because you can, right?
I actually think the best content marketing campaigns are when people look for that differentiation point. I use the example all the time when I'm talking to clients about digital content strategy around Land Rover with the Hibernate campaign, where they decided not to, their whole brand mission is, the adventure, the journey and all that kind of jazz, but rather than trying to talk around content just around journey and adventure, they decided to own a season, because people like to stay indoors during the winter, and they saw that adventure doesn't necessarily lend itself to the winter, but they could possibly change that perception. And I thought that was really interesting, because that's a brand piece, that's a search piece, and that's a content marketing piece. Yeah. And they tied it into then social. So there you go.
Oh, look at that.
And they owned an entire season. They owned the winter through adventure. And that was a really clever way of generating a relevancy and an authentic relevancy as well for them.
Yeah.
Without having to do a huge amount of legwork. That's when I find content marketing really, really interesting, is finding that differentiator.
And I think because of the saturation in the world of content, when you find something that's unique, it's even more refreshing to people, because they're like, oh, okay, I'm getting bombarded with all these blog posts, they're all the same, there's nothing different. And then something that's different, and it can be different in a number of ways. It can be the tone of voice, it can be the brand. I think branding, even with design, is so important for a blog, for example. And it can be the format, like I said, content through the letterbox, or go for something that's more interactive. I think if anything, things are becoming more interactive. Maybe content will become like a that's an event basically, but different types of content will emerge from the saturation that's happening. So that's the future.
Do you think inbound marketing is for everyone, or do you think there's certain people that maybe are exempt from that?
I completely think holistically about marketing, and I would never force inbound marketing down someone's throat just because that's what we offer as a service. I'd look at the goals and what they hope to achieve, and have a think about what's going to get them there. And I think often we rarely work with startups, because content marketing is inherently a long-term strategy. It takes time, and if you're a startup and you need quick wins, for example, because you need to prove what you're doing works, so then I'd suggest paid advertising, and also, like you said, it's a combination of things. It's not just, we were talking about it earlier, right? In a lot of companies, they have these departments, SEO, and it's separate from content, and that's separate from sales. It's like, what do you mean? They're all the same, part of the same ball game. So I think paid advertising, the best way to really get a content marketing strategy going is through paid ads and injecting paid into it.
But then is it organic content marketing if you're paying for it? So
it's a combination. It's like, that's a kind of a trick question, because it's not completely organic, but you're giving it a boost, and then by doing so, if you boost a piece, then more people are going to read it, then they're going to share it, and by doing that, Google will pick up on the signals, therefore that will bring in organic traffic. So you're more likely to get organic traffic if you start with a boost. At the same time, I think that bringing an inboundy philosophy into outbound paid advertising is smart, rather than here's an ad, click through, buy my product, here's an ad, click through and download a valuable ebook. So bring people into the funnel so it's that combination, I think, that works.
Marketing is about selling the next step, definitely. It's drawing out a more intelligent funnel, like you say, but it's about meeting user intent. Like when I'm on Facebook or LinkedIn, I'm not want to click and then buy, my wallet's not out, I'm not a search engine, but what I'm looking for is information. And if you're offering me great content that solves a problem, I'm going to give you my email address, and then I'm going to buy later. You're going to nurture me and all the rest of it. I think the mistake people make is they create content.
Now we get into attribution modelling then as well, in terms of that.
Oh, God, now you're speaking my language.
Music to your ears.
Here it goes.